I'm a dietitian here in Winnipeg, and of course, being a dietitian, I talk a lot about weight loss in both of my different positions. So lots about weight loss and about the different remedies that people try to use to lose weight. So I thought I would just share some of these, maybe explain some of them because they're not quite clear what exactly they are or how they're supposed to work for you. And then we can chat about it afterwards. So there's a few different categories of weight loss supplements and programs that you can find. So I'll just highlight an example or two from various categories that are pretty popular. So this is actually a new product. This is called Senza. You might have seen the commercial for it on TV. I call this one an intake reducer. You might call it an appetite suppressant. Basically, it's a food additive that is supposed to cause you to lose weight. So the theory behind this product is that you add these non-caloric, sweet or savory flavored crystals to everything that you eat, every time that you eat, and you will lose weight by doing it. The theory is that these crystals, they're called tastants, are supposed to heighten your sense of taste and smell. When this happens, that's supposed to trigger your body to produce more of the hormones that tell you that you're full and satisfied, thus causing you to eat less over time. The company claims that if you use their product for 6 months, you can lose 30 pounds, which is quite a significant weight loss, and that you don't need to make any changes to your diet or to your lifestyle at all, just add these crystals. So these are some pretty big claims for this product. If you watch the commercials and if you go to the website, you'll see that they really try to promote their evidence for the efficacy of their product. So what is that evidence? Well, it's really not a lot. It's really based on 2 studies. One of them was a large clinical study, not a real trial, that had about 1,400 participants, but there's a lot of methodological flaws with it. For example, it was performed by the inventor of the product. So you have to wonder if there's some conflict of interest there. Second of all, it involved a control group and a test group, but the control group was less than 1/10 the size of the test group, so you have to wonder if the results that they found are worth anything at all. The second study is supposed to be an independent third-party study. However, there are no authors listed at all for this study. There are 2 references, both written by the inventor of the product. So again, you really have to look at conflict of interest and such. Furthermore, neither of these studies are published in peer-reviewed journals. You can't even find the full results online, just poster format of their best results. So in terms of evidence for this weight loss, it really appears to be lacking for this product. So fat blockers, these have been around for 30 years or more in various types. I'm going to talk about a couple different types. You have fat blockers that are basically fat absorbers. So it's a pill or a drink or something that you take that is supposed to bind to any fat that you eat so that you don't absorb it. So then you don't get the calories from it and you lose weight. So that's things like, I'm using the example of chitosan. So chitosan, it's made from the exoskeletons of crustaceans, from crabs and lobsters and that. And it's supposed to be able to bind more than 5 times its weight in fat in the intestine. So people would take this as a supplement. This has been around for quite a while. It's been studied a fair amount, and any of the evidence is lower quality, and it really doesn't show any significant weight loss, if any, at all. Very conflicting studies, so it's a theoretical use that hasn't really been proven. The other type of fat blocker is actually a pharmaceutical that's been around for about 10 years now, and it's called orlistat, and you can get it either as Xenical or Ally. And this is actually a lipase inhibitor. So what this does is it stops the enzyme in your body that digests fat, so you don't absorb and get the calories from the fat that way. Now, this is an FDA and FDA-approved medication. It is actually very well studied in terms of weight loss supplements. There are very high-level, well-produced, peer-reviewed trials that have been done, and it does show some efficacy. So with this type of product, you're looking at a weight loss of about 2 to 4 pounds a week. But that's when it's combined with a low-fat and controlled calorie diet and regular exercise. And that is part of the program with this. So it just helps you lose a little bit extra. In the clinical trials, over a year, the people who used the higher dose of orlistat lost on average 13.4 pounds, whereas people who were doing just the diet portion lost on average 5.8 pounds. So it's not a huge weight loss that you're expecting, and the makers don't state that you're looking for a 30-pound weight loss in a month or anything like that. This product has also been shown to be effective at helping to slow weight regain. So the people who continued to use the orlistat only gained back about half as much weight as the people who were doing just diet alone. So this one does have very good evidence for its efficacy. You're looking at a 5 to 10% weight loss overall with this type of product. So it's much more modest than most of the weight loss product claims out there. Metabolism boosting foods are one that always gets a lot of press, particularly on shows like Dr. Oz or The Doctors. Almost any food has been on this list at one point, but one that's consistently there are chili peppers. And this is actually a food that's been fairly well studied. There's been a lot of study put into looking at this food. So what chili peppers are supposed to do is they're supposed to raise your metabolic rate. And they do that by activating your sympathetic nervous system. So they get your heart to beat a little faster, they get you breathing a little faster. Through this chain of reaction, you burn a few more calories. So that's how eating this type of food is supposed to get you to lose weight. You're expected to lose depending on you're expected to burn depending on the dose, somewhere between 45 and 100 extra calories. And the length of time that your metabolic rate is increased is about half an hour, but potentially longer. So there have been a variety of studies that have been done. Some have shown that you actually burn a little bit more carbohydrate when you eat the chili peppers. Some say that you burn a bit more fat. And then there's other research that says that it has a satiety effect or an appetite suppressant effect, that people report feeling more full when they eat the chili peppers, and their actual intake of calories decreases. Overall, though, the bulk of the evidence is considered conflicting by the Natural Standards Database, which is where I got most of the information for this product. And that is because most of the studies are very small, they're done with very few numbers of participants, and they're very short-term studies. So long-term effects really can't be gathered in terms of weight loss, and some of them have some of these studies do show benefits, but there are some that show no benefit to using the chili peppers for weight loss or satiety as well. So the bottom line is that even though there has been some study, there just isn't enough information to draw conclusions. Part of that problem is because the active ingredient in chili peppers, the capsaicin or capsicum, is very pungent. So getting people to take a large amount of it long term is very difficult for most people, particularly in Western diets where we really don't use a lot of chili peppers. So this has a theoretical weight loss benefit, potentially in the future if we can do longer studies, but there's a lot of barriers in the way. Too many to say that yes, they're actually going to boost your metabolism long term, start downing the chili peppers. Weight loss and protein shakes. So I have a couple varieties here. I have the Vi Shape by Visalis. And have people heard of Visalis here, Body by Vi? Okay, I've started hearing of it a little bit through talking about weight loss with some of my clients, and then another one that I've heard of is called Shakeology. So there is a variety out there. Basically what these are meal replacement protein shake programs that you go on. So depending on the variety, you're either supposed to use 1 or 2 of these shakes a day in replacing a regular meal, and then you have maybe a calorie-controlled, maybe not calorie-controlled meal later in the day. And that's supposed to get you to lose weight. The big selling feature for a lot of these products, they talk about proprietary protein blends that are easily digestible, or these proteins are going to cause you to lose weight. Sometimes they talk about the types of fiber that are in them that makes you lose weight, makes you more full, or sometimes they're even talking about all the vitamins and minerals they include in there, or some phytonutrients. or all sorts of other additives that make this extra healthy, and that the ingredients of the shakes themselves are going to lead to weight loss. But when you look at the way that these programs are structured, it's not so much actually what's in the shakes as opposed to how you're taking the shakes. Now, these shakes vary in calories, usually somewhere between 90 to 300 calories, depending on how you mix them, what other ingredients you put in there based on the instructions. So what's actually going on with these that they don't talk about in these programs is that you're probably eating less calories if you're having a shake instead of a meal, and you have a fixed number of calories. And that, from previous research that we've done, or that the scientific community has done, is what actually leads to weight loss for people. The controlled, portion-controlled, calorie-controlled meal replacements. And that's because humans are really bad at portion control. By nature, we suck at it. And we also really underestimate how many calories are in our food and how many calories we expend in a day. So when we're making our own meals, we typically take bigger portions than we think, and there's more calories in those portions. So by using these meal replacements, it takes the human element out of the calorie consumption, and that's why we lose weight on them. So the weight loss claims for these type of products are varied depending on the product that you use. I looked into Visalis a little bit more. This is a multi-level marketing scheme, just in case anybody wasn't already aware of that. When you look up the product, there's very little information about what's actually in it or what it does, and more so about how you can become a distributor. So that's a big red flag right there. But anyway, the claims for actual amount of weight loss are very limited. It's mostly just some testimonials on the website about I feel better and I lost this much weight using it. Some of the other products will give more specific claims on there. In terms of evidence for these claims, again, very, very limited. I believe Shakeology does reference one study, and it's a study, it's not a trial, and I don't believe it's peer-reviewed either. So you have to take that evidence with a grain of salt. Mostly it's testimonials, which we know really can't be trusted because anybody can claim anything at any point in time. And then one other thing to mention here, because there's so much hype about the actual ingredients of these products, we forget that it's the calorie controlled and the meal replacement portion that works. So for people who want to use these products but don't cut out any other meals, don't reduce portions or calories at other meals, they're actually more than likely going to gain weight because now they're just eating more calories by just adding shakes and not removing other meals. So that in itself is something to watch out for because you're actually counteracting what you're trying to go for with that one there. And then we have the ubiquitous herbal weight loss supplements. So I have 3 slides here. This isn't all of them. All of these different herbal products have had either a claim for helping obesity or weight loss, or for an appetite suppressant or satiety effect for them. All of these as well this list comes from the Natural Standards Database, and these are all items for which there are claims. There is absolutely insufficient evidence to make any type of claim about these products. So these are all products where somebody said, grape seed helps you feel more full, take it. And there's no evidence, there's no study, there's no proposed mechanism of action. There's just so little evidence about it that that to make a claim is just making things up, really, for these products. Now, that being said, there are some weight loss supplements or some herbal supplements that actually have been studied and do have a fair amount or even a good amount of decent quality evidence to show that they have an effect either in satiety or in weight loss. But and some of those products are in this list as well. But it's very few and far between, and you really need to look up each product individually. So if I were to talk about each one, we would be here all day talking about it, and we're just not going to do that. Some of these do take the time, if you're looking at an herbal supplement, take the time to look up the supplement that you're talking about specifically. And remember that just because there is research done on it, even if it's high quality, doesn't mean that it's actually shown to be efficacious in what it's claiming to be. A lot of herbal supplements are also sold in mixtures or even proprietary mixtures. Some weight loss companies do use these types of things. And you don't always necessarily know which herbs are going into this mixture until you've already bought it. So you have to be careful with that because they could be using some of these on this list that have no evidence behind them whatsoever. As well, with herbal supplements, you have to be careful. A lot of the products don't even contain any of the active ingredient that they purport to contain because they're not as well controlled as pharmaceuticals or other well-studied products. So the bottom line with weight loss supplements is weight loss is a fairly complex system. We like to think of it as calories in and calories out, but there are so many factors that affect both of those things. What you eat, how much you eat, when you eat, those all affect your calories in, your metabolic rate, any other health conditions that you might have, and then there's emotional factors that play into it too. So it's a very complex system between all of these things. So any weight loss product or claim that says that you don't need to change any of those factors to cause weight loss should send up a red flag for you because we know it's a complex web of interactions. As well, if there is a product that claims that it will put all of these factors into alignment, then again, you should set up a red flag because that seems like a cure-all and we don't really think that those work so well. And then lastly, a rule of thumb, just because something is natural doesn't make it safe. I can think of snake venom, I can think of volcanoes. We have all sorts of things that are completely natural and completely unsafe. So always be aware of that. And then secondly, just because it's safe doesn't make it effective for what it claims to do. So oregano is on this list, for example. We know that oregano is an herb that's very safe to eat in fairly large quantities, but that doesn't mean that it has anything to do with weight loss. So you need to separate out those factors as well. So that's just a quick overview of some of the products out there and what they're supposed to do and how they work. Thank you. Yes, Scott.
I remember when I was training with the track team, and I've always been heavier than all the other runners, and so I remember going up to the coach and like, okay, I want to lose some weight. How should I lose weight? And he says to me, well, burn more calories than you take in. And that was the end of the conversation. But I felt like asking, no, how am I supposed to lose weight? It's like, because there's a natural urge to want sort of the secret or the magic pill or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And so I have a feeling like that seems to be definitely something common amongst pretty much everyone, right? So a couple questions on that. One would be, is there anything really wrong with, a lot of companies want to supply that magic pill, but is there anything necessarily wrong with providing someone with, I don't know if you call it a little bit of hope, meaning that if they exercise and eat better, but they also take this natural supplement at the same time, then it gives them a little additional, like, well, I think that I can actually do it this time. Like, being able to hold someone's hand, is that a good thing or a bad thing because it takes you away from purely the natural way of just eating well? And then sort of a second part would be, as a nutritionist or as nutritionists, just everyone in general, do nutritionists get into these sort of things, or is this like the supplements, or is that just purely people going on their own deciding that's a good thing?
Do you mean, for the second part, do you mean do they sell them or promote them, or what did you mean exactly for that?
Make a suggestion for their clients.
That's going to be a bit of a mixed bag. If you're talking to a registered dietitian, particularly somebody who works in the weight loss area, they're not going to promote one product over another or even promote certain products. They're really going to go with the diet and lifestyle changes first. You might have some that promote certain ones, but largely if you're going with a well-qualified and registered professional, they they won't be talking about these a lot. More often than not, they'll be talking about how they don't work than how they do.
So for the person, to go back to the first question, for the person who says, I've tried everything, like, I give up, I'm just going to be, whatever, overweight. Like, is there something necessarily wrong with them taking something off the shelf and say, well, maybe I should try again? You know what I mean? Do people sometimes need that?
I see your point, and that's a hard one to distinguish. One of the things that could be wrong is that if a person is constantly spending a lot of money on these things, it can get very expensive for them. And that can be unfortunate, especially if it's at the expense of other things in their life. And then the other thing is that it's nice to have some help along the way, but if that help isn't actually help, it's not doing anything, and you actually did, for example, start becoming a lot more active, or you changed certain things about your diet, and that's what's really helping show the weight loss, then you're really taking the credit away from yourself. You're the one who made these changes in your life. You should be looking at those and trying to build on them and build confidence in that so that you can continue them. And so if you're putting it all in, if you're putting all the thanks to the product, then you're really taking away from what you did. So that's the way that I would look at it out there. I mean, some products, for example, like the Zenecal, the Orlistat, that one is meant particularly to help you along. And in the marketing, that's what they use. You know, you still need to make all these changes, but we can help you a little bit further. Most of the other products, though, they really want to take all the glory for themselves, and that's undermining everything that each person's doing. I don't know who's next here. I think Matt and then Dennis. Or
kind of quickly, how do you feel about the slogan, everything in moderation?
Well, I do use that. That being, it needs to be qualified a little bit more, and to just talk about, to just leave it at that is really leaving it open-ended and not giving people enough information. So you have to explain what is moderation. That moderation doesn't mean, you know, Twinkies in moderation and chocolate bars and Fruit Loops, like all of those things at the same time in moderation, you know. So that really needs to be paired with what is a generally accepted healthy diet, what is a healthy lifestyle, how do we incorporate some of these things that don't necessarily fit into that lifestyle and diet into the moderation. So that's how I would use. Some people do find the moderation aspect helpful, other people don't, and so you just have to modify your message. So it's something that you need to explain more. You can't just leave it at that. Dennis?
I wish you'd gone a little bit more into, there's a huge amount of scamming going on in this industry.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people making a lot of money off nothing. I mean, they're just scamming people. And they get away with it.
Yeah.
And like you have these new weight loss clinics. And they just take people's money and they go through yo-yo dieting and they all gain it back. And they have all this stuff about their enzymes and their, you know, metabolic enhancers, and they get them to buy these things, and it's a huge scam. And all these people, I mean, they're just one example. The whole industry is full of scammers. There are billions of dollars being taken out of people's, they're scamming people. And they get away with it. How did they do that? Like these weight loss clinics, why can't they be shut down? They're scammers.
You know, like I didn't have time to look into those types of clinics. And again, there are so many different programs out there like this. Again, it's because for some of the things that they use, they can make whatever claims they want. As long as they make them in a certain way, then nobody can stop them, really. If they're using herbal supplements, they don't necessarily have to have any evidence behind them. All they have to do is say, take this pill and you're going to lose weight and come back and see us every 2 weeks and pay us this much money. There's a lot of loopholes there. You need to, as consumers, we don't really know what our options are in terms of evidence-based sorts of help, and so we just assume that if somebody sets up a clinic, they know what they're talking about. So I don't have a good answer for that. There are some people like myself who went to school and really try to use the best evidence available to help counsel people on these types of things. But I also don't make big weight loss claims. I'm not going to say you're going to lose 20 pounds in 3 weeks, because that's not realistic for just about everybody, whereas other people will. And we just don't have the regulations around things for making those types of claims. So
should there be a change to regulation, or are people just so hopeless, just let them? I mean, if they're going to be so stupid, they're their own worst enemy. How do you stop people from being so stupid?
I think we just
maybe misinformed or underinformed.
I think part of it is that we just don't even realize that there's something to think about a little bit more with these things. So we just need to educate. We really need to educate people what a realistic weight loss is, what you should expect, that once you lose weight, you can't just go back to what you were doing before that, because you will gain it back. We know that, but people in general don't always know that. So we need to, I think there's an education there, as well as a regulation, and people reporting business practices perhaps that don't seem right, because the more they get reported, the more that agencies are going to look into them.
So shouldn't people like you take the gloves off? I mean,
you know, it's something we talk about a lot. It's a lot to take on, and again, we need bigger agencies, bigger enforcement behind us, because I can't take on a multi-billion or even trillion-dollar industry myself. There's only, you know, there's less than 1,000 dietitians in Manitoba. We can't do it, right? So we need to, sort of like with your talk, we need to have more regulation. We need to have more people working together and saying that this is a thing that is important and we need to regulate more, I think. Thank you very much, everybody.